Hello and welcome to Lib and Let Die with me, Mark Oaten, and is that
Me,
David
Lembit Öpik.
Somebody in a jungle or something?
No,
Where on earth are you now, Lembit?
none of your business.
Come
Why
on,
do you want?
okay, let's have it. I'm going to try and work it out. You're in Kew Gardens, surrounded by loads of children on school trips.
No,
How many more questions have I got? What
I'm not
place?
telling you.
Hang on a minute. Where do you, Wales? You might be in Wales because that's where you used to live. Am I getting closer, warmer?
Yes.
Okay.
This isn't relevant to the show. It doesn't matter where I am. It's not
What's
important.
the joke? Help me with the punchline.
It's not punchlines. I'm just somewhere.
I
Coming
don't-
back from somewhere.
You're coming back. You're in Wales. You've been doing something in Wales. What is going on in politics in Wales? There's elections coming up next year in Wales. And you don't want to do with that? Come on, what's going on?
There's a by-election going on in Wales.
Of course. A by-election. It's today.
Well, there's been a by-election going on.
Okay, and what were you doing?
Hanging
Why
around.
are you being so coy? What's all that noise going on?
It's not relevant. Look, I'm in a service station, okay? I'm in McDonald's.
You're in McDonald's.
You're going to mock me. I knew you would mock me. That's why I didn't want to tell you.
Are you having a happy meal, Lembit?
No, I'm having a big Mac. What's wrong with that?
I don't know. There's just
Something now.
yeah. Other fast food chains are available, Lembit. You know that.
Okay, you asked the question. I told you. Okay, I'm for coming back from Wales. I'm in McDonald's. Millions of people eat McDonald's. Where are you? Where are you then?
I'm at home and I overlook the Bristol Channel. I overlook the Severn Bridge. You're probably going to be driving over that Severn Bridge any
I'm at the
moment.
Severn Bridge. Can you see me?
I could just, well, no, it's pouring with rain at the moment. It's actually pouring with rain.
Well, that's because it's Wales.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
It's always rains in Wales.
I'm home. I've been in Romania. I had COVID. It's been an eventful week or so, I have to say. But COVID's gone. I'm back in Romania, and I'm overlooking Wales, and you're in a motorway service station. What a great way to start.
McDonald's with hypothermia.
Yeah. Listen, we've got a lot.
What are we going to talk about? Yeah, lots of. Go on.
It's a grim show. There's nothing particularly light about this. We need to talk about Prince Andrew. It's been a terrible week for the royals, a terrible week for Prince Andrew, and a terrible week for the politicians trying to figure out how to respond to that. It's also been a tough week for the ministers involved in putting together the grooming inquiry. That seems to have gone from bad to worse. And the government's big silver bullet, the one in, one out policy in relation to stopping those in shambles. Three big shambolic issues we need to get our head around.
And a couple of other things. You were moaning on about how you wanted to steal my identity with digital ID. Well, there's been some demonstrated progress on that. We'll get back to that as well. And I think if we can slip it in, Mike Graham, who can talk TV, he's got himself in a bit of hot water, or he claims he didn't get himself in hot water, but somebody else put him in it. And of course, we'll do your TV phase if you want as well.
Not my TV. I've got a good one this week. It's why would you invest 200,000 into a banana that smells? That is my teaser for my program. What is your one, Lembit?
He's going to get you.
He's going to get you.
Yeah, we're going to try and guess now.
Oh,
We'll get to it later on.
well, look, somebody who has been in trouble, they are going to get him, and they're getting him bit by bit, is Prince Andrew. Obviously, this goes from bad to worse. The revelations around Epstein have dogged the prince for some time now. The new revelations around his links to individuals from China, the new revelations in books which are being serialized, have just got to the point where his brother, the king, decided that the title of Duke had to disappear. But people want more, Lembit, don't they? They're saying that just removing his title as the Duke of York isn't enough. There are now questions being asked by Ed Davey in Parliament about the status of the Royal Lodge, and people also saying that Parliament should step in and make sure that the title Prince is removed. Where do you stand on this? Obviously, you haven't got much to say about it, Lembit. You're in McDonald's. They mute you in McDonald's. You're that Big Mac is in your mouth. Lembit. Okay, clearly Lembit doesn't want to. He's so Big Mac'd out that he isn't able to speak or isn't able to say anything at the moment. He's doing that classic Zoom failure of when you don't unmic yourself. And he's talking absolute nonsense. I can lip read for you at the moment. He's basically saying that he thinks that Prince Andrew should probably have his title taken away. Yeah, I think that's what Lembit is saying. Why is he keeping talking when he can clearly see that I'm talking? And he would think that he would be talking over me. Okay.
What is it? Why are you? Can you not hear me? Are you pretending?
You've been on mute for about a minute, and I've been lip reading and translating what you've been saying.
No, I haven't. You've deliberately been ignoring me. That's what actually happened there. You've deliberately been ignoring. You've got a new way to shut me up while I'm talking, and I don't like that very much. Having said that, maybe the royal family would have wished that they'd been able to do that to Prince Andrew. I have to say the thing is an absolute road crash. And when you look at the state of,
I mean, I don't know what's going in at McDonald's or indeed in Wales, but the Wi-Fi and the signal is clearly not working for Lembit at the moment. But look, this is clearly something which the public care a great deal about. It's now been raised in Parliament, and it's time, I think, for Parliament to have to step in some way. I think Ed Davies onto something about focusing not so much about the title of Prince, but focusing on the issue of public money as it relates to the amount of money which Prince Andrew gets, and also questions over the Royal Lodge. The difficulty, I think, is that you cannot change one thing. You cannot change blood. And at the end of the day, he is the Queen's son. He is the King's brother. And however many talks in Parliament, however many discussions are that take place, you can't take away that birthright. And so this issue is never going to go away for the royal family, and it's never going to go away for Prince Andrew, because he cannot take away that birthright. I think a lot of people would maybe think, is he going to do what I think it was one of the kings did previously after he abdicated, was to disappear and go to spend time away from the press in this country, do what Prince Harry has done, relocate out to America or California. But at the moment, this
right.
which needs to be going away. Lembit.
Right. The problem here is, as you say, you can't pretend he's not part of the royal family. In different circumstances, he could theoretically be the king. I think that's pretty unlikely now, but he could have been the king. Secondly, the issue here isn't that he's a royal. The issue is his catastrophically bad judgment. And I would say that even then he did recover it. If you think about what he did, he said, yes, Epstein, the only person who still says it wrong is you, Mark. But Epstein is was a good friend of his. And then he said, I've cut off all links. And then they showed some pictures saying, well, no, this was after you were meant to cut off links. He said, no, that's when I did cut off the links. That's when I went to see him and when I said goodbye. And now it turns out it wasn't true. Almost certainly. I don't think that anyone's going to sue us for saying that. So, see, he got away with it, but then he lied. And the issue is he lied. And this is causing trouble. I think he could have handled it completely differently. He completely messed up that interview with Emily Maitlis that we saw a bit of earlier on. But the fundamental problem here is that he cannot dig himself out of a hole that he dug himself into. That's the problem. You can't talk yourself out of a problem you've behaved yourself into. And so he just ended up a massive albatross for the royal family. And I feel for King Charles. I know him. He's a very decent man. His son, William, is absolutely spitting nails about this. It's quite obvious. And now there are calls. I've never seen this before, nor have you, because we were in Parliament together. Never seen Parliament stepping in saying, I think it's time for Andrew to think about emigrating.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it's not just Andrew himself, though. I think what compounds the problem is his ex-wife, who he lives with now, Sarah Ferguson. she was apparently doing the same thing in relation to lying about her relationship with Epstein. She was talking about the fact that she publicly said, look, I wish I'd not worked with him. I wish I'd not had involvement with him. And then privately sending letters to him saying, I'm really sorry I said that. I just had to say it publicly. And I think there's that sense that both of them just don't really get it. They don't understand the problems that they've caused, the mess that they've concerned, the hurt that they've caused. And it just doesn't sit right that there's public money necessarily being used for them now to sit in that 30-bedroom lodge. I don't think
bedroom. Think of the fuel bill. I mean, is he entitled to the winter fuel allowance? I'm not sure. But go on.
There's one thing I want to say, which is I think is fascinating, is there's Peter Mandelson also connected in this. Now, who's the person we haven't heard from for a month since he was sacked as the UK ambassador in Washington? Mandelson has been uncharacteristically quiet. And I think that this is a story which is also going to flare up at some point. It does seem to me also when the full papers, the Epstein papers are released and looked over by Congress in America next year, even more names are going to come out. Mandelson, Andrew, Donald Trump. This is going to keep giving and giving.
Yeah, okay, you say that. There's no doubt that Mandelson was big friends with Epstein, a little bit like Andrew. Epstein must have been a tremendously charismatic person to have all of these people supporting him,
money.
Being so positive.
He had money.
I don't know. I never met him.
Well,
no, it's got to be more than that. It couldn't have just been money. Why would such a wide range of people, such a big list of people, have fallen into his thrall? And isn't the other interesting thing, you made an assumption there. You said that when the papers are released, will they be? Because Donald Trump promised to release all of the papers, and he hasn't. He's kept most of his other promises, whether you like them or not, or at least he's tried to. But on this one, something about the current American administration has stopped him from releasing, this could be the wrong figure, 33,000 documents. Everybody wants to see them, perhaps apart from the people who have actually been in them. So question for you then, returning back to Prince Andrew, and perhaps by the time people watch this or watch the archive copy of this program, they will know. Do you think there's any way that Prince Andrew can hold on to that house, and any way that he can hold on to his close association in public release with the royal family?
I answer the question this way. Why would you want to? Why would you want to continue to be the public enemy number one? Why would you want to live in that mansion in Windsor where, frankly, you're captured in this bubble and you can't go out? And every time you go out on your horse, all the paparazzi take pictures of you. I would have thought the best thing to do, and it's easy to offer advice to people in these circumstances when you're not in it, disappear, go away, leave this country, rebuild your life, try and find some happiness, try and do some good away from the public light. But being in Windsor, it's too close. It's far too close for him to rebuild his life in any way.
Okay, well, this one we won't fix on this program, but perhaps you and I can both give a piece of advice were Andrew to listen to us. And I'll start. I would tell Andrew, you've just got to cut your losses because you're dragging down incidentally the royal family. I don't think he's really doing actual damage to King Charles, but incidentally he's causing trouble because he's taking away from all the things King Charles is doing. In fact, it was a sad coincidence that just as King Charles was preparing to go to meet the Pope in Rome, a very pious thing to do, the Andrew story was just making the headlines. So I'd simply say to King Charles, Charles, brother, what do you want me to do? And just follow those instructions. What about you? What would you say?
I agree. Look, you're still in your early 60s. You're still, as far as we know, fit and healthy. You've still got 30, 40 years left. Make the most of that, not by looking back, looking in regret, trying to hang on to things. You've got to accept that life is over, reconfigure and rebuild a new life and find happiness. And also think about your two daughters, because every time your name is in the press, it must be hurting them as well. So I think for all sorts of reasons, it's time to try and find a way forward and move on and accept what you've done wrong.
I think that talking about ruined lives, the other thing that has really incensed me recently is the total Labour government mishandling of the grooming gangs. Let's call them for what they are, the rape gangs. And the government has just mired itself in this pointless own goal, I would argue, by saying, oh, we didn't want to have an inquiry, we didn't want to have an inquiry. Now we will have an inquiry. But actually, it'll be an inquiry about abuse generally against women and girls. Everything they're doing seems to be making it look like they're trying to wriggle out of this incredibly awkward situation. And that's causing people to think, why is Labour so scared of lifting the lid on what's been going on for decades? And I don't like that. And I think it's doing them tremendous damage.
Yeah, look, it's been badly handled. Ironically enough, I actually like Jess Phillips. I think she's a feisty minister. She passionately believes in things. And I don't think for a minute she herself is trying to do anything to cover this up. I think she's angry and wants to get to the bottom of it. What I don't understand is why they haven't been able to find somebody to chair this inquiry. Actually, they have found people, but those who were victims themselves have said they don't have trust, for example, in a former social worker or somebody who used to be in the police force. These are obvious own goals that the government have committed. Whatever the qualities of those individuals who could have perhaps chaired it very well, and I hear that the police officer was somebody who actually resigned from the police force 15 years ago because he wasn't happy about how the police handled these issues. But nevertheless, you have to be sensitive, and it was never going to work with somebody who the victims saw as part of the establishment. And that's why now to quickly find somebody who can gain trust on all sides and get on with this inquiry.
I think the fatal moment for her credibility, these are interesting pictures, by the way, the fatal moment for Jess Phillips' credibility is when she lost it in the House of Commons. She looked like a child. When I think Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament, challenged her, and she just became a petulant teenager. But the worst thing of all is that the rape victims have resigned. That's the only power they've got. They say we have no faith in Jess Phillips. And they feel that she called them liars, that they were wrong. You can't do that to people whose lives have been ruined by rape. And this is just a classic own goal of this absolutely accident-prone government. Jess Phillips just isn't the right person for that job. And perhaps for those, once again, looking at this in the archive, will see that she's resigned. I'll be very surprised if she can restore any credibility with a lot of those rape victims. What would you do if you were the Prime Minister and you had to choose someone from the Labour Party? You can't choose your mates. You can't say, oh, Nick Clegg would do better. Somebody in the Labour Party who could actually take this over. Who would you put in the place?
Well, I don't think that that's the question, Lembit. That you don't have to have a Labour politician to get involved in this issue. You need to get it out of politics. You need to get it into an independent sphere, and you need to have somebody who's got empathy and experience. I don't like the idea, particularly of judge-led inquiries, although I note that that's what the victims are asking for. I find that they tend to be quite stuffy. I also find that most of these inquiries led in that way drag on for 2 or 3 years. They come up with 52 recommendations, and then absolutely bugger all is done from those recommendations. So from my perspective, I would like somebody independent, not judicial, a go-getter, somebody who can look at this quickly, establish the facts, and come up with quick, fast recommendations rather than a traditional old-style inquiry which drags on for years, costs lots of money, and just results in bureaucracy.
Actually, I think you're right. And for that reason, my feeling is the best person is probably an unknown, not a celebrity, not a famous person, perhaps an ex-politician or an ex-MP, somebody who did well in politics in the past but has no stake in the game now. Somebody like Paddy Ashton would have been pretty good at this, I think, because he was trusted by everybody. So whoever it is, it cannot be. You're absolutely right. I realize this now. It cannot be somebody who's mired in the politics of today when we've got a beleaguered government who's terrified of losing votes and an opposition all too happy to make hay. Keir Starmer has been taking hit after hit after hit on this subject. The obvious accusation, let me put it on the table, is Labour won't look into because they're scared of losing their block vote from ethnic communities who don't want this to be investigated. Now, whether that's right or wrong, we need to know the truth. And no one trusts Labour to get to the truth because there's too much vested interest, Mark.
Exactly. And look, there's another issue where nobody trusts Labour to get to the bottom of the small boats issue. We've talked many times about the failed attempts. The government then came up with this latest one, which was the 1 in, 1 out policy. And what has resulted? Yeah, well, one did go out, but the same person 3 weeks later came back in again. Then the government said, well, of course, we never said this was a silver bullet to the problem. Too right, it wasn't. The bullet that needs to be fired, frankly, is by the French, and it needs to be into one of these dinghies before they take off. This is shambolic. It goes from bad to worst, and it's quite clear that the French have no intention of taking this 1 in, 1 out seriously. It actually doesn't act as a deterrent. We've not seen any decline in the numbers coming through since the government put that policy in place. And I've said it time and time again, we need to look at a more militaristic Navy solution to this to stop these boats from being allowed to get into the sea in the first place. And I don't care if people say, oh, you can't do that, the French won't play ball. We have to do something to get credibility back to our border control. And that's not some reform, right-wing crazy comment. It's normal common sense to say that we should be able to protect our borders. And this, frankly, winds me up no end because it's shambolic in the way we've been doing it so far.
You leave reform out of this. The one party that said, no ifs, no buts, you come in here illegally, you're never get asylum in Britain. But okay, leave that aside. I declare an interest in that at the moment. But I would say the biggest irony of all is the mathematical nonsensicalness of having the 1 in, 1 out policy. Think about it this way. If 10,000 boat people came in a week, we'd send them all back to France, but then we'd take a different 10,000 into the UK, asylum seekers. So if 1 million people somehow got across into the UK illegally, we'd send them back, but then we'd replace them with another 1 million people. This means that Keir Starmer has given away the entire policy of migration to illegal drugs traffickers and illegal people traffickers, illegal traffickers of anything that involves people coming into this country. That's just insane.
It is insane. And what also winds me up, frankly, is that I think it's a week ago, new rules came in place for tourists and business people like me. When we're traveling into the EU, we're now going to have our fingerprints taken, our biometrics taken under these new EU travel arrangements because we're no longer in the EU. So it seems to me that if you're a decent, honest, hardworking person, a tourist going on that holiday, you're now going to spend 3-4 hours stuck at Faro Airport, having all of these biometrics taken, being frisked, all your luggage gone through. But what happens? We can't control gangs selling places on rubber dinghies coming into the channel. How can you have one system which is being made so restrictive and another which seems to be just totally shambolic? And the reason I mentioned the reform port, Lembit, is simply to say this. It is a failure of the Liberals and the left to discuss this issue and to say that they're angry with it as well, that has allowed reform to take all the running on this. I see no inconsistency with me being a liberal person who's passionate about wanting to give genuine asylum, but at the same time being horrified at what's happening with these small boats. I don't see why liberals should not be allowed to talk about these issues as well.
Well, I don't know. You're preaching to the wrong person here. I don't know either. But let's put it this way. Two parties have got this crazy positive attraction to letting migrants in. The Greens, who've more or less said, Jack Belansky, he's gift that keeps on giving, everyone's come in, but they're all welcome, they're all welcome. Okay, I wonder how many of these illegal immigrants are living next to Jack Belansky's house. And the second lot are the Lib Dems, because what you've said is completely illogical. Your party wants to open the borders, get us into something called Schengen. There is no border then, Mark Oaten. Once you get into the European Union, you can just come all the way here. You don't even have to get into it, but we can get into it if you want to, because you don't have to show any documents. So that's why you can't be taken seriously on this, because your party wants to dissolve the border. Put a big white flag up saying, we surrender, come into the United Kingdom and do what you like.
Absolutely not. What I want to do is to make sure that we're part of that EU so that tourists, business people can travel without those restrictions in place. But at the same time, being in Europe means we can have much more pressure on the French and the Germans and others to tackle this issue. At the moment, we're a voice from the outside. They're not listening. We need the French to step up on this issue, and being part of the EU would help us do that. And frankly, Lembit, the problem has got worse since Brexit. The figures show that. We were promised under Brexit, oh, we'll take our borders back, we'll control. The figures have gone up since then. It's made not a blind bit of difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, you're completely right. That's why the Uni Party, Labour, Lib Dem, Tories, are a complete and utter failure, because they didn't deliver Brexit. Completely right. And here's the point. I don't often hear you giving me that old superficial carbohydrate flannel, but you've just done that because you haven't answered the question. If there is no border between France and England, how do you stop them from coming across? Now answer that question. Don't want to hear any of your waffle.
Well, because we've got literally, we have a channel. There is a border. It's a channel which can be managed, and it's a channel that means that the border has to go through proper border controls.
There is no border, Mark. There is no border. You don't check anything.
Just because you're part of the EU doesn't mean to say that you don't have a channel and you don't have a way in which the free movement of individuals doesn't have to be managed. Of course, it has to be managed.
Have you ever gone between two European borders? Have you gone across any European borders recently? Of course you have. You know what you're saying is nonsense. You go from Germany to France, or you go through across and there is no check. You don't have any check at all. And this is the problem, fundamental flaw in what you're saying.
Before we left the EU, yeah, we had controls in place. They were there. What are you saying? Just because we joined the EU, all of those controls disappear? They were there before. If we go back into the EU, we can negotiate exactly what controls we want in place for our borders. This is absolutely nonsense to suggest that there'll be no borders at all just because you go back into the EU. Brexit has not...
You want to join? Your party wants to join Schengen. This Schengen thing means there are no borders. Oh, are you telling me that the Dems don't want to go into the Schengen thing? They don't want to go into the borderless thing? That's just not true. Just wise up here. Come on. Who are you kidding?
Right. We need to calm down. We need to take an advert break, and we need to come back and discuss other people who are making controversial statements. Let's take a break now, Lembit, before I get really wound up by you.
Hi, I'm Lembit Öpik, head of Unprecedented TV, and also presenter of Lembit Öpik Live 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is about the stories making the headlines all around the world. Our mission is to give you the facts and our views and help you decide for yourself what you think about the pressing matters of the day. And that's not all. If you subscribe to Unprecedented TV on our YouTube channel, you'll find a great selection of fantastic presenters producing interesting shows all through the week. I hope you will join us and myself on Monday to Friday at Lembit Öpik Live. Our aim is not to beat the mainstream media, it's to be the mainstream media and return free speech to the airwaves. Thanks very much for watching this. Please watch our shows. I'm Lembit Öpik. This is Unprecedented TV. We'll see you soon.
Just when I wanted to break,
Do you like it?
Just when I wanted to break the bloody advert is Lembit.
Do you like it? Do you like it?
I think it's. I might even tune in. But somebody who we will not be able to be tuning into is a Talk Sport broadcaster who I gather has been taken off air, Lembit.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Mike Graham, who I know pretty well, he made an apology for somebody else putting something absolutely crazy onto his social media. He said things which I won't repeat, but they were pretty hard-hitting comments about people who you might say are not Anglo-Saxon. And he put something out of denial, saying somebody hacked into his system. At time of us broadcasting recording this, he's been suspended. I don't know what the truth is here, but one interesting thing Mike Graham has done is say that these comments are appalling, unconscionable, totally unacceptable. So if he did do them, he's caused himself a huge problem. If he didn't do them, I think it's pretty important he shows how it happened. And as I say, I know him quite well. He's a reasonably good friend. And I'm not going to judge him by media, but this is a huge problem for him. The question is what he said so bad that he should be suspended or not?
I think there's two questions here, Lembit. First of all, you know, how in this world of AI technology are we going to handle this in the future going forward? Because for sure, there are going to be individuals who are going to have their quotes copied, they're going to have them made up, they're going to have their voice put in place. And increasingly, this is going to be a problem for celebrities and broadcasters who are going to go around and claim, look, this just wasn't me. And then there are those that maybe like Graham who did make these comments who are then going to suddenly try and pretend that it was something to do with AI in a way. So understanding what is true and what is fake is going to be a real challenge for all of us. If it was indeed true, then how far do we defend the right of an individual to say things that they believe? Did he go too far making those comments? And it was interesting because they were harsher comments which played on a theme which Robert Jenrick did a few weeks ago when he was traveling around Birmingham, commenting on the ethnicity of the people that he was seeing in the streets. And again, that kicked up a great furore. And so, look, these are very sensitive issues, but I do defend the right of individuals to be able to make these kind of comments. Although looking at what Graham said, it was a step too far, if indeed it was something which he said.
Yeah, I think that it's very easy to just ban people. And I've often said here at Unprecedented, I'd be really resistant to banning people unless they actually broke the law. I think it's acceptable to be offensive as long as you're not inciting actual violence or something which materially harms other people. Offense can't be given, it can only be taken. And so if Mike Graham did do it, the first thing I'd say is, and maybe they did do this, they say, come in, Mike, tell us what happened. Tell us why you said it. Oh, you didn't say it. Can you show that? And then I'd say, well, let's think about this. And as I say, I'm not going to tell Talk what to do, but I just think we live in a cancel culture now where you can't say stupid things anymore. I think in a free world, you should be allowed to say stupid things.
There's also the appropriateness of where you say them. I mean, if you're talking about Talk or Unprecedented or any of these news channels or channels which try to get into controversial issues, then maybe that is the place for these things to be said. If you're talking as the presenter of Match of the Day and you start to bring that language into Match of the Day, clearly that's not an appropriate place where you can have those controversial comments discussed. So a lot of it is about the platform, I think, which is being used to say some of these issues. And there are platforms we know which are going to be controversial and to try and get that kind of dialogue going with listeners, and Talk is one of those.
It's a terrible shame, though. But one reason that we've set up Unprecedented TV is to actually give more latitude for people to not have to look over their shoulder all the time in case they get cancelled. I think that Lucy Connolly, who was, in my view, ludicrously imprisoned for over a year for hurting words on the internet, summed it up. I saw her speaking recently, and there's this complete idiot he's a Labour councillor called Ricky Jones, who said, oh, let's slit the throats of the far right. And the interviewer said to her, would you put Ricky Jones in prison? She said, what he said was because he acted like an idiot. But I shouldn't have been in prison, and nor should he. Now, I'm inclined to take that view. I found that quite persuasive because I don't think people actually went and slit anybody's throats on account of Ricky Jones's stupid comment. But we now live in a society, and I have to say, Talk is part of the problem. I've seen things that they've done before, and these pretend like new wave media are actually just conformist mainstream media. And so what I'm worried about here is if Mike Graham gets cancelled because he said something really dumb, they're beginning to call self-censorship. And you don't change someone's point of view by shutting them up. You change people's view by debating. And you and I have these big arguments. I really disagreed with what you said before, but I'd rather have the discussion now and let the viewers be smart enough and trust them to be smart enough to make up their own judgments.
Yeah. But look, let's also wait and see how this story develops, because if it is the case that somebody has actually infiltrated social media, if this isn't him, then it's obviously a case of his account being hacked. which I guess gets us on to the hacking story, the IT story of the week, which was Amazon and others, all of those social media apps, discovering that they also had been subject to a form of hacking. The fact that those systems went down for about 2 or 3 hours earlier on this week, I guess plays to your argument, Lembit, that we can't have ID cards. We can't risk having data breaches in the way that we've seen with top names like Amazon. Then you would argue that there could be perhaps a data breach if we had all of our information carried by the government on ID cards.
That's incredible. You have seen the light. You have transformed your view on the road to Damascus, or in my case, on the road to the Severn Bridge. And you sound like a liberal again, a proper old-fashioned liberal. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a funny old journey because I started off being absolutely opposed to ID cards back in the 1990s when Blair tried to do it. I then come around to thinking it's going to make our life more convenient. Why the hell are we objecting to this? We have so many forms of ID for our bank and the NHS. Let's have it in one careful place. And then I'm twitching a little bit now because there's so much cybersecurity issues at the moment that, yes, I am getting a little bit more nervous. I'm not changed my mind completely yet, but as the facts change, then I'm prepared to also reconsider.
Well, this picture here on the screen, Amazon apologized to customers impacted by huge AWS outages. You'd expect Amazon to be super secure. They're dealing with hundreds of billions of pounds worth of money. If they can't do it, well, let's cast our mind across to Westminster, where Keir Starmer and political giants like David Lammy are in charge. Rachel Reeves, who can't do something. I don't trust those people 1 ounce with my data. If Amazon can't look after it, this government definitely can't. And so I agree with you. And also, incidentally, I went on a demo recently about ID, digital ID, and I found myself very much agreeing with the people who were on that demonstration. And I thought it was really good to see thousands of people, there weren't millions, but thousands of people on that demonstration, including Piers Corbyn, actually. He's a very effective communicator.
It's I need more evidence now. I'm shifting my opinion back and forth on it. I'm not entirely convinced yet, Lembit, but as the weeks go on, keep probing me on this issue and we will see where I end up, okay?
That's David Icke in the middle there, by the way. And
is he back?
Yeah. He's still never gone away. And Gareth Icke, his son's doing great work as well with a group called Iconic. Happy to promote it. Go to Iconic. When you're not watching here, go to Iconic. But the people there I felt I had common cause with. Andrew Bridgen, who's been on the show recently, here on Unprecedented. These are the people who I think actually think for themselves. The person you see in the foreground holding that speaker, she's called Rose Diamond. These are controversial characters in a way. For other people, I like what they're doing because whether you agree with them or not, they're speaking up for your freedom. And I have to tell you, there is nothing that would make me support digital ID, given the total incompetence of not just this government, all governments when it comes to managing our data, but even more seriously, back to the earlier story and something that we didn't go into that much detail in, but I'll highlight it. If you're willing to throw your passport in the sea while you're coming back for your 5th attempt to get into Britain, why would you be concerned about getting digital ID? You don't need it because your employer is going to be illegal anyway. They're going to be paying you in cash. The only people who suffer in all this situation are law-abiding citizens who get the ID and then they get hacked or they get controlled. But you go and try and buy your 3rd steak of the week and they say, our digital information tells us that you've had 2 steaks already and you can't do it. Or you try to travel more than 15 minutes from where you live. Say, I'm afraid you're not allowed to do that because of the climate emergency hoax. So there are no good reasons. I'm going to carry on lobbying you, Mark, all the time until you change your view and you say no to digital ID. Thank you for that counselling.
Our producer Moose is also against me on this issue. I know. I think she might also have been on one of those protests recently. So it's 2 against 1 at the moment. Interesting.
Moose was actually next to David Icke. She was standing next to David Icke. Yeah, there you are. If you have a look there, there she is. She's the one with the very cool glasses. The one with with the balloons coming out of her head.
Really?
Yeah, those are thought bubbles. She
It's
thinks
a
for
good
herself.
look. It's a good look, Moose. Not. Look, it's interesting though, because this has united two parties that you didn't think would ever be united. The Liberal Democrats and Reform are both coming out against ID cards. So there is at least one weird.
Yeah, but the difference is that Reform UK means it.
The difference is that the Lib Dems have 72 MPs, actually. Anyway, it's time for my favourite part of the whole program.
Before you go, there's Moose. There's a close up of Moose smiling at David Icke. So
David
when
a bit creepy there, I think, Moose.
He's not creepy. That is so judgmental. Says Mark Oaten. Says Mark Oaten.
The least creepy person you know, for goodness sake. Right, favorite TV program. I said at the start it was about why would you invest money in a banana which takes away weird smells. My program is Dragon's Den. It's entering, I think, its 23rd series. It's the show where people pitch their ideas and hope that one of these dragons that you can see on the screen now will put money behind the project. And the last episode I saw had this crazy guy. He comes in and he says, I have smelly trainers, but I've invented a kind of plastic banana that if you put it in the trainers, it takes away the odor. And I thought this was an April Fool's joke. I thought it was a wind-up. And 3 of the dragons completely pulled him to pieces. He was all over the place. He's not made a penny out of this idea. And then out of the blue, Peter Jones, one of the biggest, tallest giants as well, comes in and says, do you know what? This is genius, and gives him £200,000. It was a fascinating show, but I absolutely love it when you see couples come in there, and it means the world to them to get this investment. And there's such crazy ideas as well. But the banana, I thought, would never get approved, and it did. Crazy. Lembit.
No, I'm just wondering. I'm trying to be polite. I'm trying to be polite about this. I don't think it's ever going to make it. But maybe. But my 4-year-old, one of her favourite phrases is half a banana, and maybe that's a summary of this particular. I don't know why it is half banana. She just stopped saying it, but maybe that's a symptom. Yeah. Now mine is the bogeyman. He's going to come and get you. That was actually the bogeyman. Now the bogeyman is a film made from a short story by Stephen King, and once again it is a film. I don't really have time to watch other kinds of programs, but and series and so on. That's it. There, it's really scary, and it's sort of popcorn film. But I found myself shivering. It's in some ways it's a bit formulaic, but if you just want to have an hour and a half of entertainment, which is directed probably at late teens, but it worked for me. Watched it at night. Bogeyman, I recommend it. Stephen King's politics suck, but his books are very good.
I suggest next time you're shivering, you turn the heating up, Lembit, if you can afford to.
It's 4 minutes for McDonald's.
On that note, enjoy your rest of your McDonald's. I'm sure your chips have gone cold and your burger is half eaten. I hope you're going to have one of their boiling hot apple tarts to finish your evening. I wish you well. Please only hold one of those up to me. I wish you well on your journey, a safe journey back. I'll wave at you as you pass on the Severn Bridge, and I will look forward to seeing you next time on Lib and Let Die.
Right back at you, and also we can talk more seriously about the implications of that very interesting result in Caerphilly, which is where the by-election has occurred in Welsh politics. We won't go into that now. Let's talk about it next time. Good to see you as always, and thank you, viewers, for watching. I'm Lembit Öpik,
and I'm not the bogeyman. I'm Mark Oaten.
See you soon.